All right. Do you want to just do this as like a conversation or?
Yeah, I don't really have like anything else I really want to talk about other than this. So like I'm not really here to like do a podcast today or anything like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, that's just what I was making sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a extended conversation um about this topic at hand here.
Sure
So
thing.
so I don't know. Should we begin, or is there like a
Yeah,
structure to
we
it?
can start. It's all good.
So I kind of want to recap what happened on Raj Rael last week, and you can I'll try my best here to recap to the best of my ability, and you can just kind of like stop me whenever if I'm inaccurate on the whole thing here.
Yeah, go for it.
To an extent, you were being ambushed by Bath Boy and someone else. I haven't rewatched it in verbatim, but like
Mm-hmm.
you're getting ambushed over inward usage, and then you said something along the lines of like I used the N with a hard R in private all the time, or something along those lines, or an elaboration that like you have like a refusal to like censor your private thoughts because who are they hurting, or I don't know, something like that. Who are they hurting in private or whatever? And it
Yeah,
was like,
that's essentially true.
like you don't care about like. And again, this is kind of where I wish I had the exact quote here, but like I
Mm-hmm.
haven't watched it. I didn't really feel like watching it again because it kind of just I don't know, it kind of hurt to really look at again. But you don't care about. I don't want to strawman you here, but like you don't care about minorities or advocacy for things like that. You care about whatever makes the world a better place for you to exist in, or makes the
Mm-hmm.
world work better, which happens to be people get along and there's less racism in the world. But you're not
Sure.
particularly keen on advocating for those things specifically. Is that or you said something
Well,
along
like,
those lines,
so
right?
like, there's like a fundamental. I don't want to get like too down like the ethics train, but like, there's like the fundamental value that I typically look for is like what makes the world like kind of like a better functioning place for everybody, kind of, yeah. So there's not like any issue that I like intrinsically like care about. So like I don't care about like capitalism or freedom or liberty or minority rights or white people rights or anything like that. It's more just like at the end of the day, like what makes everybody kind of like get along better. And it seems like there are ways to do that that kind of make sense. Like it seems pretty hard to have a society where everybody's like happy and healthy if there's slavery, but it seems like a lot easier to have a society where people are happier and healthier when there's like when people have like access equal access to like education and economic opportunity and stuff like that.
Right. So you said something, and then I don't know. I can't really quantify or even specify exactly what shocked me or hurt my feelings
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And then, but that wasn't really the thing that really got me. I mean, that was like
Mm-hmm.
you know, some elaboration here. This does seem pretty alarming and jarring to me. To
Okay.
know that you may use like in order the hard R in private,
Sure.
because you don't use it around me, and so it just feels like it's something. It just feels like at surface level value a little bit disingenuous, but I'm not here to say that definitively yet. Just that that is why I felt how I felt at that time. And
Sure.
then when I brought it back up, I don't know, 2 or 3 rounds later into the Raj Royale, you then when I kind of like told you how I felt, hey, I don't know if I can associate with you because it does seem disingenuous of me to be around someone who condones that kind of behavior. You like I don't know. I was coming from a very emotional place. I do admit it was a appeal to emotion, which is not automatically a bad thing. I mean, because I would assume because of our functioning friendship that emotions do exist to some capacity. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You kind of came back with something that made me feel a lot worse. It made me feel disposable because you're just like, well, if you feel that way, buddy, just da 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 da, and then like, you go about, if I'm invading your private thoughts or whatever,
Sure.
and that's really what got me was how quick you were to dissociate. Like my my gut feeling is that I don't know if I can associate with you with that, knowing this knowledge now, because now knowing what you publicly admitted, what you may or may not do privately, affects
Mm-hmm.
my perception of you, and I don't know if I can really deal with that. And then your I guess response to that is that like Well, it's your fault you feel that way. Kind of get over it. And I'm ready to dispose of DT podcast.
Sure.
And
So
honestly, with you.
let me talk about that statement real quick, okay?
Mhm.
So obviously, I do like I talked about this on stream a little bit last night. I do a lot of debate, and I do a lot of like very complicated conversations pretty often. And as a result, like I think I'm generally like pretty good at getting my point across, or pretty good at making people agree with me.
Oh, sorry,
When I
your
what?
mic is like super freaking out right now.
Wait, can you hear me? Testing. 1 2 1 2.
Chad, do you hear this right now, or is it just me? Can you say it again?
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Testing.
okay,
1 2
okay.
1 2.
Yeah, okay, here you go, good. Sorry.
Okay. So generally, I think I'm like pretty good at like debating people or getting people to agree with a point, or like making sure that my point is like logically consistent, or that my argument like is sound or whatever. Just because for some reason, or for one reason, just because I have so much practice doing it. Because of that fact, and because oftentimes like the people that I have personal relationships with, so whether it's a friend or a girlfriend, don't do the same type of thing I do. When I'm having a disagreement with somebody and it's on an emotional level, it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable for me to pursue that conversation, because I don't want to feel like I'm trying to debate somebody out of how they feel. Looking at it like in retrospect, I can understand why to you it sounds like I'm basically saying like, oh well, sorry, that's your problem, get fucked. But what I mean when I say like this is like your emotional like reaction to this, like you can think what you want. I'm not trying to say like get fucked, like that's your thing. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get into an argument with you about how you feel, because even if you end up agreeing with me at the end, I don't know if like you actually agree with me, or if I just like made you feel like shouldn't debated you out of your feelings. And that's something that I always want to avoid that with people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm hearing
Yeah.
your elaboration right now, and
Hmm.
I was going concerning, I guess if you want to call that the resolve of the Raj Royale. That was me being kind of like, I wasn't being sincere to you there. I just kind of like conceded because
Yeah, because
I was emotional. You were in debate mode. Like I was emotional. I didn't feel like debating about it. I was shocked you kind of doubled down on giving me no kind of like empathy here or anything like that. And I was like, all right, I guess we'll just talk about it later because I don't feel like really busting out my emotional guts right here in front of 30,000 people back
sure.
then.
And it's like, yeah, and again, like just to reiterate, like even if I come out like on top, even if I win that debate, like I don't if there is something that bothers you, I don't feel good like trying to debate you out of how you feel about an issue. I'm trying to reiterate that hard, because I understand that like it's kind of like one of those things like I'm sorry you're so offended, like that kind of apology is like okay dude. And that's not how I'm trying to come out. Like if you have like an emotional problem with something, and I'm not trying to frame that as like it's all on you or whatever, but like if there's something that you have that you want to work through, that you want to deal with, it's really hard for me to be involved in that process without it feeling like I'm just trying to debate you out of your feelings, which is something that I never want to leave. And this is I even deal with this in real life sometimes. Like if I have a disagreement with like a girlfriend or something, it's very hard for me to have that conversation, because like at the end of it, even if she ends up agreeing with me, it's like okay, well, did she actually like change how she feels about it, or did she look at it in a new light, or did I just like debate her so hard that now she feels like shit and doesn't want to talk about it anymore, which is like something that I never want to do to anybody. I think that's a really shitty thing to do.
I can't help but feel it feels somewhat like ego preservation or some kind of pride where you just can't like concede that. Certainly, you can in retrospect now say that it came off a certain way and give me further elaboration, but my feelings have been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That did hurt. I can elaborate further on that stuff if need be, but like I don't know. Honestly, just knowing that the willingness to even like apologize would go a long way for
What
me.
apologize for what?
For how you made me feel.
In For what I did that made you feel what? I am sorry if I come off as like very cold, or if I seemed like really insensitive to the way you feel. Like I would apologize for that.
Apologize. So it was one thing. We can get into like semantics about the one thing about using the N word, the hard R in private, or other edgy jokes that may or may not contain that word as well. But
Hmm.
it was more your swiftness to discount everything to make your point. That the DT podcast, I can get rid of it. Your association with me, I can get rid of it. All to be on top in that particular debate because principles were above friendship.
So I don't view it as being on top of a particular debate, but yeah, I would throw away a lot in my life in order to hold fast to my principles. I've done it in the past, and I'll continue to do it in the future. Like I don't think you're anything if you don't have like some core system of values that you believe in. Like that is like a very firm belief I have. It's one of the reasons why like I didn't have an abortion when my ex-girlfriend that hated me got pregnant. Like, yeah, I'm really big on that, and I will make big sacrifices for the things I believe in. It's one of the reasons why I don't carry sponsorships or take deals from G2 or whatever. So in terms of like, I mean, like, I guess like the interpretation, and I understand the feeling of this is like, oh, so like, you know, he just like doesn't care about me or doesn't like my show or blah blah blah. I don't think that's true. I mean, like, I think that like we've ran like 30 episodes or whatever, something like that we've done for quite a while. Like, I mean, I've like enjoyed associating with you. I've enjoyed like having, you know, conversations, everything with you. Like, all of this has been fun. But like, I don't know. I guess like the idea that like here's a belief that I have, and that if I don't change it, that I hate you and I hate everything. I don't think that that's like a fair way to frame I guess like the time that I've spent with you, or the time that we've spent doing any of the stuff together. I feel like that's a little bit heavy-handed.
Well, I don't know if I even have a direct comparison here. I mean, I don't have a slur I can throw at you, Steven, that is comparable to the one that you may or may not use in private that you admitted publicly. I'm not even really asking you to stop saying it. I'm not here to be the thought police on like what you say or do in your private time, because I obviously can't mind control you. I can't enforce that upon you. But at least the public reception of what you do can alter, at least show some remorse for admitting that you may have not used a hard R in front of a black person.
I don't. I guess I don't understand what you're expecting me to show remorse for it. That I defend my like point on like saying like edgy jokes in private, or that I hurt you when I brought up that I say edgy jokes in private. Like,
Something like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably that. I think, and forgive me, I really should have gone back and rewatched the quote verbatim here, but
which quote verbatim?
Well, you had like a certain criteria of where you would, if you were to make an edgy joke that may or may not contain slurs or things like that, that you would only make them around people that would not repeat that rhetoric in a problematic or assaulting way.
Yeah, basically
that are not
people
racist.
that I don't think have like horrible underlying viewpoints that would be reinforced by said humor, basically. Yeah.
Certainly, right? And it just feels a little bit weird because I guess maybe the shock here is that you don't do that with me. I feel like I'm wait, what?
I mean, like, yeah, I use different jokes around different people, but like, I think you say you're not even comfortable with like the soft A publicly. So my read on you, and I could be wrong, my read on you is that you don't do much like edgy or shock humor at all. So yeah, of course we don't joke around in that way. I've got a lot of friends like that. I could be totally wrong, but like, yeah, that would be my read on that.
Okay, well, I guess that could be one thing, but I don't know. Just it's like it does feel incredibly disingenuous. But let's continue on though. So even with that in mind,
Sure.
the reason why I still feel how I feel right now, aside from like the lack of any kind of closure to just like, obviously I've been emotionally down for a while here. I barely streamed. I've been dreading this. I feel like it's ultimately, I feel like even right now I'm in debate mode with you over like the whole thing and what I'm trying to get out of the
Sure.
situation.
Yeah, which is
I'm
one of the
not,
reasons
I'm
why
not
I don't-
having, I'm not having fun with this at all right now. I don't really
Yeah.
enjoy this part here. I'm kind of stunned that it's even gotten to this point still. But okay, cool. Let me continue here. The other reason why I would say I'm escalating further here and kind of bringing up here that I may no longer want to associate with you is because of this implied tokenism. If that moment happens and I say nothing of it, then I feel like, well, obviously Destiny is a politically active streamer who is very aware of the assault power of the N with a hard R. You know better than probably most other people in any given debate, call, whatever podcast. And for you to publicly admit that you use it in private does breed an influence upon your very sizable fan base. And if I stand by the sidelines aware of what you said publicly, then am I not condoning that or allowing that behavior on my behalf? Because I'm not objecting to it. So I don't want to be like your token black friend who gave you the N-word pass essentially when you do that. Because whenever you admit publicly what you said privately, what function did the privacy have at that point?
Well, the function is that I don't repeat those types of jokes publicly. Like I think there's a big difference between saying like, oh, like I use edgy humor privately versus these are the jokes that I say, aren't they funny? I think there's a huge difference between I think there's a world of difference between those two positions. People try to present them the same, but I mean, we can run through a million examples. I think that they're substantially different.
Well then, That may just be where we have to disagree on that one then. There's more though, like the
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's no equivalent slur that I can even call or throw at you. So maybe I don't know if you ever felt how I felt then. I've never felt it, by the way. I've never. It's not like I'm sitting here on standby, waiting to be offended. I completely understand like this perspective that like I'm a slave to syllables because if someone says it, then I'm gonna be auto triggered. I've been called N-word in my chat, in my DMs, on social media, in-game comms, everywhere left and right. Priority mode's literally the thing I have to deal with whether I want to or not. And none of that ever really bothered me because I didn't associate with that. Because I don't know those people, and obviously it's just a lowest common denominator of an attempted insult ad hominem because there's nothing of substance to critique me on. Certainly.
Sure.
But it felt totally different when I had a friend admit in front of me that he may use it. And that hit me differently. And I didn't really plan it. I didn't expect it. But that's what happened live on Raj last Saturday. And that's all I can really tell you. Like at this point, I'm just asking for like an ounce of empathy here. But
I mean, like I'm empathetic. Like I can understand like why it would upset you or why it would bother you. Like I can empathize with that. But I mean, like I mean, and I don't know what our history, but I don't know if we've had this discussion before on the podcast, but like, I've been like very public with this position for a long time. Like this isn't like a new development or anything. Like I've had these same arguments with my community or with other people, or when I debate alt writers or when I debate people on whether they should use edgy jokes. Like I've had the same position for years. This isn't like something new. So I mean, like I guess like maybe it's like surprising because now it's been reframed so that it's literally just like me it turns into Michael Kramer or whatever when I guess the stream turns off. But like like these are positions that I've held for a long time. I feel like we've even discussed it before, but maybe you weren't thinking of like it being this extreme or something, or maybe we just
maybe I wasn't on
the conversation.
Maybe I wasn't on the receiving end of it. I guess maybe.
Well, you're still not on the receiving end of anything. Like it's not like I'm calling you the N-word privately. And if you're saying that you're not on the receiving end of it, and in that if you mean like just the N-word puts you on the receiving end of it, I don't know why you would be okay with other racial slurs, but just not the N-word. That seems like a really weird position to take too. But again, I'm so uncomfortable with this conversation because like if you are uncomfortable with a particular thing that I do, it is 100% within your right to be uncomfortable. I don't want to leave you feeling like fuck, like he debated me and I still feel like shit, but now I feel like I've lost the debate. I don't want you to feel that way. Like it makes me feel like really shit that I'm like if it comes off as me trying to do that to you, like that's never my intention or my goal.
I feel like contextually, yeah. If I mean, okay, so you're bringing up why am I not okay with other slurs? I don't know because you haven't. I don't know. Yeah, they weren't specified in your claim, I guess, but I don't use those either. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into examples of them.
I mean, you kind of do a little bit, right? Like, I don't want to go like full debate mode, right? But like, so you made the joke like a week ago in your Discord about the little N-word lit or whatever as like a joke, and that was even in like a public Discord, right? Now I'm not saying like you should or shouldn't be able to do it or whatever, but like clearly like both of us have stances on like things that we would say in private or in smaller communities that we wouldn't be comfortable saying publicly, right?
Certainly, yeah.
And like, I don't know. I feel like this whole thing got reframed into like I don't want to run down specific jokes with you, but like there are jokes that have been made by black comedians that involve like highly racist or not racist but like racial elements to them, and like sometimes people repeat said jokes around each other. It's pretty rare. Like I honestly I can't even think of like a joke where I would like say like the hard R in public. That just became like what this entire debate got reframed about, was literally just that one word. But like that's not been my position that like I really want to say the hard R constantly privately. It's more just like there are edgy jokes. When I say edgy, I mean jokes that could be interpreted as targeting like oppressed groups. That there are jokes I'm comfortable saying privately that I'm not comfortable saying publicly. Like that's more or less been my position the entire time.
Okay. Well. Okay. Let's go back here then, right? So.
Sure. Yeah. If I'm ever talking too much, you can always stop me.
No. We can. This is really hard because like obviously you're just like really fast on everything, and I'm like still, I mean, pretty tilted right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let's go back then. We'll revisit the example you cited here. So so Niglet, right? Is that the one you're talking about, right?
Sure.
Okay, so So yeah, there's a picture of me from first grade that I shared with my Discord because I found a picture. My mom found like a picture book from grade school recently. I shared it with them. I showed them that, and you're right. I did an Uncle Ruckus. Well, the idea was I was using that word to quote Uncle Ruckus from Boondocks. I was hesitant to use it, but my chat was, I was like, hey, I got this joke that I think is like y'all would find it pretty funny, but I don't know if I should or shouldn't right now. And they kind of dared me to do it, and so I just like used the my little it's called Try Small. This is a picture of me from first grade, but yeah, I put that between the two things and said that. Tell me again, what was your point about bringing this one up here? That
Well,
was
so like in this context, my guess, I'm gonna make some educated guesses about like what you feel. You probably feel like you don't have a community full of racists. You probably feel like the joke is kind of like how ridiculous it would be to even say this, right? And then you feel like you're in a safe enough space that like the people around you aren't gonna magically hate black people. I shouldn't say magically, aren't gonna begin to like harbor or foster racist views because of like you saying that joke. Like like as you say, like it's literally like an Uncle Ruckus type joke. Like it's tasteless or tacky, and that's part of where the humor comes from. Like I would imagine you probably wouldn't be comfortable with like Jesse Lee Peterson, that guy, like him making a joke like that. My guess is that if you saw him typing something like that, or like Candace Owens, or non-black people, especially like Steven Crowder or somebody else like making a joke like that, or Stefan Molyneux, like this motherfucker's racist and this is a racist joke. But like since you know you're not racist, and since you felt reasonably comfortable that your community's probably not racist, you're like, yeah, okay, like this is okay.
Yeah, most certainly. So again, I wasn't really here to like really focus on that because I get that
Yeah, we don't have to. We don't have to.
I can't get you on that. Whatever.
Sure. And I'm not trying to like get you or have you get me on anything. That's not like the goal of the conversation. So we can talk about whatever particular thing you want to talk about.
I guess it's really that like I don't know, dude. I felt a certain way. My discomfort directly from your actions made me feel a certain way, and then how you conveyed it made me feel like it was my fault I was offended, and that it was like I need to fix myself to be around you and not the other way around. You also haven't really also responded to the tokenism critique I have either about that. Like that's like the other thing here too that just makes me like really want to reconsider what I'm doing here going forward.
Yeah, sure. Which one do you want to start with? I can say that like when I told you that like, hey, like these are your feelings, like you should sort them out. I definitely could have done that in a more positive way. That the way that it came off was like a pretty big like it's your problem, deal with it, asshole kind of way. Like that's definitely what that I can see how that could feel that way for sure. So I'm sorry that I came off like really harsh there, in terms of like how I framed that for sure.
Oh, well, damn, I didn't think I would get that out of you actually. Yeah, well that's a great start. Because that's what really let me just also just take a second here before we even get back to tokenism and all that. That's what really beat me down. If I can just talk for a little bit more about that. So we've been doing the DT podcast now, and this will be I think episode 32 or something along those lines. Me and you, my camera's freaking out. Yeah, my camera's like being stupid. Me and you had essentially a bonding experience. Like I knew that you had massive clout. I knew that you were like you had a way larger community, way bigger following, every measurable metric is like dwarfing mine essentially. But I knew that we collided together on Scuff podcast several times. But then our bonding moment was double teaming whoever it was over kneeling in the NFL anthem protest and going over Black Lives Matter, BLM, the BLM versus ALM argument, all lives matter. I'm just like, and we tag teamed that. It was awesome. And then from that fallout, I say fallout, but from that time, the podcast happened. We've been doing this now for, I don't know the exact duration, but over a year. And yeah, that bond, that obviously I'm not your intellectual equal, obviously. You've been debating and you have like the argument and logic framework down way further than I do. I'm working on it.
I would be like really careful in phrasing it too. I wouldn't say that you're not like my intellectual equal or anything. I just have a lot more experience debating. I mean, you're obviously a really smart guy. I'm very blunt. You should know this by now. If I thought you were stupid, I wouldn't talk to you. I don't waste my time with people that I think are dumb. So it's not even that you're not like my intellectual equal. I just have a lot of experience debating. Like
I should wear somewhere here. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just like, um, and I don't know, over that time, you know, I've tiptoed in a lot of areas to make sure that, like, I guess I didn't like come off as inconsiderate or crass or rude or any of those things. I never, you know, I never poke into your personal life. I, you know, always screen you in advance on topics that I feel are anything other than topical from the news that involve me or you personally. You know, as far as like our pending one on open versus closed relationships, I wanted to make sure, you know, that you were cool with it, and also that you were good. If I can here, not hashtag leak DMs, I hit you up offline, relevant to the podcast, ask you if you were okay, because I had heard some memes about you were now in an open relationship and that maybe things aren't going so well, or maybe you need someone to talk to. I don't fucking know. I know the value.
After all the Denim's drama and stuff. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the value of having a confidential conversation, because it doesn't fucking exist online, because fucking the Discord log or Discord DM or a ping or any of that bullshit, you know, any text you type out on a keyboard is marked in permanent ink somewhere, somehow, eventually. So I know the value of a confidential conversation. That's the value I find whenever I go to things like TwitchCon and I see people like you and we're off the grid, because it's great. So yeah, so I just felt like over time there had been there has been a friendship. I knew nothing about you, and now I know a lot more. I don't know if I know comprehensive enough here, but I know a lot more about you, and it feels like and it felt like it hurt a lot how quick you were ready to discount everything over not even the principle, but just the reluctance to see how hurt I was from whatever you did, irrelevant of your principles of it. So it does feel, it feels somewhat good that you at least you admitted that came off as
Incredibly cold. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Now, as far back to the, okay, so then I got out the way here. As far as the tokenism goes, yeah. So let's go back to that one here. So my thing here was that I don't want to be the token black guy who is in your company when you admit publicly that you may or may not use edgy jokes that may or may not contain N or the hard R. Because I don't want to be the one who said, you know, well, my blackness was the authority that greenlit this to happen, and then possibly your community may see that as you are aware of what that word can do damage wise, that you admit publicly that you may not use it privately. Like I don't be part of that, and so that also bothers me. Like, do you get what I'm coming here from that point?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my counter argument would be that, well, I mean, just because we're friends doesn't mean you have to endorse every single thing I say. And then your response would be, even if I don't like endorse it, even if I speak out against it, people are still going to like hold me to task for it or make me answer for it, like every single time somebody talks to me. Right.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So,
I mean, like, again, this is really hard because I'm not trying to debate you out of like your principles. Like, given like if I'm in that situation, typically like I'm pretty clear on what I support and what I don't support. I have friends that have like political stances that I don't agree with 100%, and I'm pretty clear on like, you know, if they say something that I disagree with publicly, I push back on it. I don't disagree with it, and for me that's enough. But it's not necessarily enough for everybody. There might be some people, or you might say like, you know, like that might be enough for you, but for this particular issue, I think that the damage it does to me or my community, or the harm that I might spread even farther past that, it makes it not worthwhile. That's like a value thing that you have to decide. I mean, I can tell you how I would act, but I could also just be lying because I don't want to lose you as a friend or something too. So I mean, like, I'm not trying to do like these are your feelings figured out. I'm just saying like I can't like tell you how to act there. Does that make sense? I'm trying to say that, but I'm not trying to say like this is what you like. I'm trying to say that your feelings are wrong, or I'm trying to debate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sorry, this is like really hard to explain without me trying to tell you what to do, because I don't think I have like the right to do that. I don't think it's my place to say.
yeah, I understand. I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, because like if I'm gonna like debate you on this, obviously I'm gonna say like you shouldn't let this type of thing bother you. But whether or not it bothers you is up for you to decide. That's your decision, of course. I can't tell you how to feel about that.
I get it. It's just it's a little bit unbelievable. I mean,
What do you mean by unbelievable? Which part of that do you mean by unbelievable?
like, forgive me, it's just so hard to like put it all together swiftly, but like, I guess because it feels like I'm like I or others would be asking so little of you. Just the public admittance that you wouldn't use possibly edgy jokes that contain N with a hard R. You would admit that publicly. I really can't enforce that you would, whatever you would do privately, obviously, but even just the admittance that you would refrain from doing so publicly would shed that responsibility from me about the whole association thing.
Sure. So to be clear, you're asking me to lie about like some principle I have to save face for you publicly. You know, I would never do that, right? Not because I don't like you or because I don't value friendship. I clearly do because we're having this conversation, right? I clearly do, but like I'm never going to like lie to everybody about like a particular thing that I think because somebody else might have to like not feel comfortable about it. Like I just it's just not the way that I work.
I guess certainly you don't have to lie, but I thought maybe you would turn around on that. I wouldn't ask you to lie. I just feel like what I was asking wasn't that big of a deal.
Well,
But
I mean, like you're basically saying like I need to reverse like my entire position on like this whole idea behind like public or private like jokes, basically. That any joke you make in a private forum should be appropriate in a public forum, basically. Which isn't a crazy position, by the way. Like there are a lot of people that believe just that. It's just not my belief.
I guess, I mean, I understand that might come off as radical and like thought police and speech police. So let me stop there. That's really not it. It's a complicated, icky thing because of, well, honestly, because you admitted it publicly. When you admit publicly what you do privately, that changes the perception of a couple of things. That changes.
I
how
mean,
you.
I would still argue there's a big difference between those things. I think it's a little. I don't think it's fair to say they're the same thing.
So this is why, and this is where it comes to a stalemate. Then this is where I would disagree with that, and I can't do more for you then.
Sure. So I mean, like, I guess like I guess to bring up some of the examples Relevant was bringing up, right? There might be like a form of like consensual sex that I engage in. I think it's a lot different to say like, oh, like there's a lot of like things that I do behind the scenes that I wouldn't do publicly. I think that's a lot different than like releasing a video of like me having sex. I think these two things are worlds apart. It's like saying like, oh yeah, like there are jokes that I make privately that I wouldn't make publicly is way different than just saying like, here's all the edgy jokes I know, like, you know, blah 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 blah. I think those two things are way 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 different.
I don't agree with that, but I don't know, dude. I don't know. Maybe I'll just stop here and I'll figure it out from here on, I guess, and see where I go with it.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do. And then I'm always free to chat either publicly or privately or whatever you want to go that route with. Again, it's like it's really hard for me to like responsibly have this conversation because it feels like there's like basically two routes I can go. The first route is I either walk back on everything I said and I like radically change the way that I view, you know, language and humor, or the other way is I basically try to like out debate you on how you feel about these things, which I don't really think is my place to do. It feels like really irresponsible to me, almost like borderline manipulation for me to like try to do that. So
yeah. It's cool. Well, really, this was more bonus points for me at this point. I came in expecting you to concede on nothing, and to feel completely devalued as a friend, irrelevant of the debate about N-word usage and edgy humor and all that. So you gave me that. You gave me something. So
Okay. I mean, I hope you don't think I like hate you as a person. I don't, even if you decide like, oh, like I'm done with the podcast, blah, 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 like that's within your right to do. I'm not gonna hate you. Like I don't hate you for any of this. Like I mean, obviously, like if I've been willing to go this far or whatever, I mean, I really like you as a person. It's been fun talking to you and hang out with you and everything. And I mean, whatever you do is up to you. But I mean, I'm not gonna hold anything against you personally.
Well, I don't know. It just feels like you're so dissociated from the whole situation as far as like on the empathetic end. Like I got one sorry out of you, which is again more than what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
But I admit it was real. It's so jarring to play back all these things in my head since Saturday, where you were able to continue to laugh, and I looked visibly uncomfortable for several rounds on the Raj. You know, I've had a fucking terrible time trying to get in the mood to stream because I'm dreading this point now where I have to, you know, I don't know. I
Sure.
guess
I mean, like I'm not gonna turn this around on me in any way, but like they're like I think our conversation at the end of that show was a lot more productive than what led up to it. Would you agree with that? Or do you think it was just as bad as the beginning part?
um, you're talking about the final 20 minutes of Raj.
Yeah,
The
that
one
the
that was
final 20 minutes was a
no,
lot more
that
productive. Hmm.
not really. No,
You don't? You think it was more or less the same?
I I wasn't a fan of how you like. So we were talking about a thing, and then eventually got to the point where you said on the final 20 minutes of Raj that I said it feels like you're putting principles above friendship, or a relative level of comfort within our friendship. And then you like threw out the thing about, you know, if my girlfriend was a Nazi, and I didn't feel that was a very accurate attempt to debate that perspective away. I get that you have principles that you value. Evidently, you value them more than I guess surface level things within comfort levels of friendship. I don't know really how to word that one better, honestly.
I mean, I
But
we can I can give you
I
like
don't know,
an
like
oh, God.
equating friendship to like significant other relationship, and then using like I don't know, like I'm not sure if I would use like Nazism as like a comparable applicable thing to use for the debate there.
Yeah, I mean, I could plug in like any other thing that somebody might have an issue with. Like maybe I'm an atheist and somebody doesn't like it when I talk publicly about that. Like I would probably lose a friend over that. Like I'm not going to like change how I represent my religious views publicly for a friend. I mean, we can plug in like any other type of like any other type of thing that like I feel strongly about that I wouldn't. I mean, I just don't bend my principles like that, because a friend disagrees with them.
So that's all it would take. Is just like is that. I guess it
Is
depends on the context here, but that's a little
wait,
bit
wait, wait. That's all it would take for what?
I don't know to end a friendship. If like if you so yeah, if you were like an atheist surrounded by religious people,
Hmm.
whether they be like your family or other people that you would just like. I guess it depends on like the context here too, right? But like principles above friendships.
Yeah, 100%. I would end friendships over that. If somebody was like, I don't really like it that like you're an atheist publicly. Yeah, I would never. I would just say, okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like if you don't want to be friends, that's fine. But I would be done with it really easily. It's an easy decision for me.
Hmm. Even then, I'm not sure if that's comparable to this though. Because I guess you could say that like when it comes to like inward, right? I don't. And if feel free to like pick it apart here, obviously, because I know you're pretty good at that. But you know, I don't pick to be black. I mean, one can obviously pick to be religious or atheist, or one can pick to be a Trumpist amongst progressives, or one can pick to be etc. Whatever. But like,
Yeah, these are way different things, of course.
so that was the whole point. Was I didn't feel that your attempt to use the girlfriend Nazi thing was applicable to principles
I was
above
more just
friendships.
the point that I was addressing was whether or not I would be willing to change behavior based on what a friend would want me to change a behavior on. Those behaviors themselves aren't necessarily comparable. Well, they aren't comparable. Um, but the idea was just more like if a friend had a belief that like they massively disagreed with you on, would you be willing to end that friendship if they asked you to change that belief? And like yeah, for most of my like major beliefs, I think I would for the most part. Yeah. And then I just ran down some random ones, atheism or Nazism or anything like that. Now, atheism and Nazism and all these things, and whether or not you should use certain jokes privately, these are all very different issues. They're not comparable to themselves, but it's more just the general idea of like, would you end a friendship or sacrifice relationships for some principled belief that you have?
All right. Well, I guess to continue on there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, thanks for the acknowledgement that I was made. I was uncomfortable. It means something that you were able to admit that. I've had a pretty terrible weekend. I had a pretty I don't know, pretty awful time. I haven't really been in the mood to stream. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I guess I don't really have much more I can say at this point. I've kind of said my point, and you kind of gave me like what I can get out of it. So I guess I'll just say like, I don't know. We'll see. I'll talk to you later, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah, sure thing. Just message me whenever. We can always chat.
All right, fam. Later.
All right. Good luck, man. Bye.
Like what you just said there, possible.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe there might be like a hiring bias that might
Yeah,
impact
and that's what I would stick with. I'm not here to die on the hill.